Welcome back to the deep dive. Our mission today is a little different. We're diving into a really specific and I think for many people, a pretty painful psychological paradox.
It really is.
We're looking at why these incredibly capable individuals, people leading teams, running businesses, can suddenly experience a total collapse in confidence.
And it happens the moment they just have to speak English.
Exactly. The moment English enters the picture.
It's fascinating material. We're not talking about people who lack skills. This is about the manager who is, sharp, decisive in their own language. But then the meeting switches to English and poof.
Their mind goes blank.
Totally blank. They feel their thoughts freeze up and they report this profound sense of self-doubt. The source material we looked at has a great term for it. It calls it the moment the confident speaker shrinks.
That feeling of shrinking.
Oh,
That's what we have to get into, that cognitive paralysis. So just to be clear for everyone listening, this deep dive is not about verb conjugations.
There's no vocabulary list here.
We want to understand the core psychological engine behind this language anxiety and why it feels so different from learning, I don't know, any other professional skill.
Precisely. We're really looking at the difference between language as a skill, which it is, and language as a psychological barrier, which it can become.
This is about understanding why your brain can feel like it's betraying you right when the pressure is on.
We're going beyond grammar. We're looking at the wiring.
Okay, so let's unpack the first big idea, which really gets at the root cause. When people feel this anxiety, they almost always misdiagnose the problem.
They do. They think it's purely technical.
Right. I'm afraid because my English is bad. I just need more words, better grammar.
And that assumption is exactly what keeps them stuck. The research we reviewed makes a really strong counter-argument. The fear is almost never about the English language itself.
So what is it about?
It's profoundly, and I mean overwhelmingly, rooted in the fear of being judged.
Okay, that distinction is huge. Shifting from a skill deficit to a social threat. But why English? Why does this specific language carry so much of that baggage?
That's the key question. I mean, you don't feel that same level of public threat when you mess up a spreadsheet formula.
Right. Or when you're trying to parallel park and you get it wrong.
Exactly. This is where the source material gets into the formation of what it calls emotional memory. For generations, especially in schools all over the world, English wasn't just taught as a communication tool.
It was taught as something else.
It was framed as a gatekeeper, a measure of your intelligence, your social status, and, above all, a judgment tool.
A judgment tool.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through how that actually worked in practice?
Well, think back to school. For so many people, English class meant marks, corrections, red pens.
Oh, the red pen.
The red pen. And, laughter from other kids. If you made a mistake on a math test, you just got a number circled. But if you made a mistake speaking English in class, the correction was often immediate. It was visible. Sometimes it was public.
So it's tied to shame.
It's tied to public embarrassment. That whole process of constant external grading created this really deep, lasting emotional memory.
So now, fast forward 20, 30 years, you're in a boardroom, you open your mouth to speak English, and your subconscious isn't just asking, is this grammatically correct?
No, it's bracing for the emotional sting of that red pen.
Yeah.
Your brain remembers that historical pain point. It links English directly to potential embarrassment. It's an old protective mechanism firing off in a modern setting.
Which brings us back to that paradox.
Yeah.
You have this highly competent person, right? Successful professional. If they're confident enough to manage a huge budget, why doesn't that same confidence just transfer over to a conversation?
This is where we get into the psychology of certainty. Confidence is, well, it's fundamentally built on a feeling of control, on predictability.
It likes to know what's coming next.
The source material puts it perfectly. It says confidence hates uncertainty. And speaking a non-native language, that instantly throws you into a world of massive, high-stakes uncertainty.
When you're speaking your native tongue, the path from a thought to a word is, it's instant. It's effortless. You're in total control.
But in English, for a non-native speaker, the cognitive load just skyrockets. You're not just thinking about your point. Your brain is simultaneously running checks on vocabulary, tense, pronunciation.
It's doing 5 things at once.
At least. And that complexity creates extreme uncertainty. Your brain interprets that massive cognitive load as a threat.
And when the brain perceives a threat, it goes into protection mode.
The protective responses kick right in. The sources actually detail the specific internal questions that trigger this anxiety, this freeze response. It's things like, what if I sound stupid?
What if I use the wrong word?
What if they laugh at my accent? The brain is trying to protect you from that social threat of judgment, and the easiest way to protect you is to shut down.
Better to say nothing and be safe than say something and risk being corrected.
Exactly. So the core takeaway here is that this feeling, this English fear, it's not a knowledge problem, it's an emotional memory responding to what it thinks is a social threat.
And that's why trying to fix it with more grammar books just doesn't work. You're applying a technical fix to a psychological trigger.
You're treating the symptom, not the cause. It explains why so many smart people keep learning more and more, but their actual conversational confidence never improves.
So the solution has to be about deactivating that emotional link.
It does. Which brings us straight to the mechanical failure that happens in a real conversation. That awful, dreaded delay.
Ah, yes, the translation trap. This is huge. Confident speakers need that seamless flow to feel in control, and this trap just destroys it.
It's the physical manifestation of that judgment fear. Your brain refuses to let you speak until it thinks the sentence is perfect to avoid that old trigger. So let's break down the mental process that happens in like 2 seconds.
Okay, give us the breakdown of this mental marathon.
Okay, step 1. You hear a question. You immediately think of the perfect, nuanced answer in your mother tongue.
Right.
Step 2. You start translating that perfect thought into English. Step 3. You mentally check the grammar of your translation.
Is it the right tense? Word order?
Exactly. That's step 4. And then finally, step 5. You start worrying about your accent. Will they even understand me?
And we've all seen it happen. You're in a big meeting, you have the perfect point to make, but you spend those 3 agonizing seconds running all those checks.
And someone else jumps in. The moment is gone.
The moment is gone, and your confidence just plummets. You feel slow.
It's a confidence killer. Fluent speakers operate on instant response, but learners in this trap are forcing themselves through all these unnecessary filters, which guarantees they'll always be a step behind.
So how do you dismantle that? How do you break that habit?
The fundamental shift is from filtering to just responding. You have to train your brain to bypass all those checks. The source material makes this really powerful claim here. It says fluency doesn't come from thinking harder.
It comes from
thinking less. The goal is to shut down that internal, anxiety-driven editor.
thinking less to speak better. That feels like it turns everything we've been taught about learning on its head.
It does.
And that takes us right to what the sources call the perfection lie. Why do we demand perfect English from ourselves when we would never expect that for any other complex skill we learn?
It's such a good point. I mean, think about learning to drive a car. You don't wait until you can perfectly handle rush hour traffic before you even touch the steering wheel.
No. You go to an empty parking lot, you hit a few cones.
You make mistakes. And those mistakes are just data. But because English was taught as a subject, with marks, with a right and wrong answer, we feel like we need this imaginary permission slip to speak.
I can speak once I'm perfect.
Right, once I'm ready. But that's the trap. That's the catch-22 we need to escape, because the readiness you're waiting for only comes from doing the very thing you're avoiding.
It is the single biggest barrier, isn't it?
Absolutely. And here's the crucial insight that should hopefully free you up. Fluency comes after speaking, not before it. You don't get fluent and then start speaking. You start speaking imperfectly, messily, and that constant engagement is what builds fluency.
So we have to aggressively redefine what failure means. If the goal is just don't make mistakes, we'll always choose silence.
And the sources are so clear on this. Mistakes are not failure. Silence is.
Silence is failure.
Silence guarantees zero learning, zero communication, zero confidence. A mistake, though, that's just proof you tried. It's data. So the goal isn't to avoid errors anymore, it's to avoid avoidance.
Okay, that's a powerful reframe. So we have the emotional root, the fear of judgment, we have the mechanical failure, the translation trap, and the philosophical hurdle, the perfection lie. Now let's get actionable.
Let's do it.
If the answer isn't memorizing more rules, what are the actual behavioral shifts that help you reclaim that confidence?
The solutions are all behavioral. They're focused entirely on building comfort first. Comfort, not correctness, is the real prerequisite for fluency.
Okay, so what's the first critical step to building that comfort?
You have to practice speaking before you feel ready.
Oof.
Yeah, it's the direct embrace of uncertainty. You have to consciously commit to doing the thing that makes you uncomfortable, even when you're sure you'll make a mistake. You have to override that internal editor that's screaming, wait, check this first.
That takes real courage, because your brain is telling you you're walking right into the line of fire, judgment-wise.
It does, which leads directly to the second behavioral shift.
Hmm.
You have to practice accepting mistakes calmly. This is how you detoxify that old memory of the red pen. When you hear yourself make an error, you have to stop the self-criticism immediately.
Okay, so in that moment, what's a specific technique you can use?
Acknowledge it internally. Just say to yourself, okay, that was an imperfect sentence. Maybe you notice it was a grammar issue. Then you consciously refuse to attach any shame to it, correct it if you can, and just move on.
You take away the red pen's power by not having an emotional reaction.
Exactly. It reframes the mistake from a shameful failure to just a piece of data.
And what's the third and maybe the most sustainable shift?
The third shift is about consistency. You have to commit to practicing English like a daily habit, not a performance. If the only time you speak English is in a high-stakes meeting, what we call game day, the pressure will always be too much.
That performance pressure just makes you revert to all those old protective filtering habits.
Of course it does. You have to lower the stakes dramatically. Practice in low-pressure settings every single day. Talk to yourself while you're making coffee. Narrate your drive to work out loud. Anything to make it a comfortable, normal, daily tool.
So it stops being this big, scary event and just becomes part of your day.
It becomes a tool, not a test. And that incremental exposure is what reduces the anxiety over time.
So to summarize this whole deep dive then, that feeling of shrinking, it's rooted in this old emotional memory of judgment, not a real lack of capability now. And the way out is to consciously override that memory. You reframe English as a skill you build through imperfect habit, and you refuse to let mistakes trigger that old feeling of shame.
It's all about psychological disarmament. It's about removing the barriers that are stopping you from using the immense knowledge you already have.
As we close out, I want to leave you with a final thought from the source material. It's something really potent to think about the next time you feel that fear rising before a conversation.
If English scares you, remember this. Fear means you care. You care deeply about communicating well. And caring means that growth is possible. Your confidence isn't gone, it's just waiting to be reclaimed by accepting imperfection.
And that's the mission. Speak calmly, speak daily, and most importantly, speak anyway. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.